Have you ever wondered what it would be like to meet another version of yourself? Whether it be you from the past, the future, or a completely different iteration of yourself that you barely recognize if it wasn't for the signature mannerisms and behaviors on display. I'm so curious if I would become my own best friend or if I'd annoy the absolute shit out of myself. And I also wonder how I would cope with there potentially being another me who doesn't look anything like me. Maybe even an alligator. It's a bizarre thought, yet also one of the most intriguing. Who else could better talk you through a situation or give some worthwhile advice other than another you? Well, that's exactly what we get to experience in this particular installment of Loki. I can't hold back any longer. Let's get into it. The episode opens with a long shot that takes us to the Void, the place where variants go when they're pruned, and we get a very brief glimpse of the partially destroyed Avengers Tower. Though if you look close enough, you'll realize that it doesn't say Stark Industries or Avengers Tower. Instead, it's labeled with Kang. Now this is quite an interesting Easter egg to kick off the episode with. Kang Enterprises is a company that actually bought Avengers Tower from Stark Industries in the comics and is a company owned by a man named Mr. Griffin, who is actually a version of Nathaniel Richards, aka Kang the Conqueror. I know, the guy must have multi-personality disorder because he has like a bajillion aliases. With a massive, intimidating purple cloud named Alligator looming in the background, we come across Loki being escorted away by the 4 Loki variants we saw in episode 4's mid-credit scene. Cut back over to Sylvie interrogating Renslayer, and the TVA judge confesses that pruning a person, or even a whole reality, doesn't destroy it, but instead transfers it to the Void, a place at the end of time where the branch timeline's existence simply stops. Renslayer persuades Sylvie to give her back the TemPad in order to help bring Loki back from the Void. Back in the Void, the band of Lokis run for their lives until our Loki demands some answers as to what the fuck is going on here. It's also nice and humorous to hear him acknowledge that he's not even aware if it's been days or months since his attempt to take New York. The other Lokis help explain that all hope is lost and there's no point in making a plan to escape, rather a plan to survive. So they head back to their secret hideout, and as they climb down, we see Throg stuck in a jar, desperately trying to leap out and retrieve his Mjolnir. Oh shit, yes! Give me more Throg! Inside of the Loki hideout, the group discussed their various backstories that led to them being caught by the TVA, one of which I believe is more than a simple tale of legends. Classic Loki, wonderfully portrayed by the magnificent Richard E. Grant, explains that his timeline appeared to be not too different from our Loki's, with the main difference being that when Thanos attacked, Classic Loki cast a projection of himself so real that even the Mad Titan believed it, and he remained hidden in the background to escape and live out his days in voluntary solitude. Now, I'm not at all sure where the end of this series is going to leave Loki at, but something tells me we may see him have an opportunity to jump back to the moment he would have died at the hands of Thanos, but this time use the scheme played out by Classic Loki in order to provide a justified reason as to why the events in the MCU have played out the same as we've seen up to now, but also why Loki will be alive and kicking after all this. The stories of his other selves get him riled up, and he decides he's going to go kill Alligator, but the other Lokis laugh the idea off as insanity. Upon going to leave the bunker on his own, he comes across none other than 10 other variants of himself, one of which is another Tom Hiddleston. After a number of betrayals, the majority of the Lokis throw themselves into an all-out brawl, and our Loki, Classic Loki, Kid Loki, and Alligator Loki manage to escape. Wait, don't forget Throg! After making their exit, the other 3 Lokis begrudgingly agree to assist our Loki in taking down Alligator. As all of this has been going on, the distrust between Sylvie and Renslayer continues to boil over until Renslayer's backup comes in to rescue her. As the Minutemen close in towards Sylvie, the distressed goddess of mischief takes a leap of faith and prunes herself. She awakens to find herself now in the Void, and just before Alligator can have her as an afternoon snack, she gets picked up in a car being driven by Mobius! Yay! I knew they wouldn't just kill him off like that. Now say wow, damn it, say wow! They drive towards Alligator and end up crossing paths with the group of Lokis, where it's then decided that instead of killing the big purple cloud, they're going to enchant it. Renslayer is also on a search for whoever is really running the show and asks Miss Minutes to give her all the files on the beginning of time in the TVA. In preparation for their upcoming escapade, the group take a pit stop, during which Loki and Sylvie have a sweet moment together and essentially confirm they're going to be a couple if they survive all of this. Then Sylvie gives Mobius Renslayer's TemPad so he can head back to the TVA, Kid Loki gives our Loki a sword, and our main duo venture off to face the purple cloud of doom. Loki does his best to cause a big enough distraction to grab Alligator's attention, but his wee little flaming sword doesn't seem to do the trick. Thankfully, Classic Loki decided to stick around and help he does, creating one of the best pieces of imagery from the episode. Classic Loki conjures up a projection of the entirety of Asgard, which instantly piques the big monster's interest. As the attack on fake Asgard takes place, Sylvie convinces Loki to help her enchant Alligator together, even though he's never done it before. Classic Loki is one of the best sacrifices in Marvel, and our duo successfully enchant Alligator. Though, instead of warping into his mind or memories, the enormous cloud simply disintegrates and vanishes. In the midst of it dissipating, a portal opens up with a large castle off in the distance. Then the episode ends. There's the breakdown of episode 5, Journey into Mystery. This episode was the most fun I've had with any installment of an MCU project this year so far. Richard E. Grant, thank you for making my day, and with all due respect and love to Tom Hiddleston, you very well might be my favorite Loki. Seeing our Loki get a chance to encounter so many variations of himself was such a delight, and a part of me just didn't want it to end. When President Loki and his gang showed up, I just wanted to find out more about every one of the dumpster part costume variants we saw. It was definitely humorous how they all betrayed each other, and something tells me this was the first of many times we'll get the opportunity to see a hero and or a villain meet multiple versions of themselves. Side note, I need a spin-off special of Alligator Loki vs. Throg. There was such an abundance of Easter eggs sprinkled in here that you almost have to watch it multiple times just to catch them all. Even in just the opening shot of the Void, there's Ronan's ship, a huge Yellow Jacket head, Thanos' helicopter, plus the aforementioned Kang Enterprises building. And there's probably a few I'm missing. I absolutely love the amount of attention to detail there is in here. Alligator was a unique and welcome addition to the roster here, as I don't know much about him, but what I do know is that he is a big rival of the big bad I've been theorizing would be behind all of this madness, Kang the Conqueror. There's just so many signs pointing to Kang at this point that I'd put money on the table that he's showing up in this series. I've heard some people mention, there's no way they'd introduce Kang in a Disney Plus series. Why? This isn't Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., bud. Marvel has made it pretty evident that all of these series are 100% heavily tied into the movies, so what makes you think they would hold back on bringing him into play here? I've said it before, I'll say it again. I believe Kang could very well be the next Thanos of the MCU, and if he is, then it makes complete sense that he would make his presence felt throughout the cinematic universe. Where did Thanos first pop up? The Avengers after credit scene, then Guardians of the Galaxy, and so on and so forth. He was built up in the background while all the other stories played out. Though I think we may get more of a direct impact from Kang on a quicker scale, I still think it will mirror the Mad Titan's appearances to an extent. The very last image we see is the large castle off in the distance of the newly opened portal, and a lot of people, including myself, believe that castle to be Castle Limbo, the comic book home of Immortus, a future version of Kang. My final theory before the last episode is basically this. Loki and Sylvie will make their way to Castle Limbo and discover Immortus, who will then reveal that he has been attempting to create one harmonious, sacred timeline so that all his past selves, such as Kang, will stop causing chaos and destruction amongst the multiverse. The very end will then be the appearance of Kang himself, vowing to destroy all Immortus has created, thus being the avalanche of a dilemma this fourth phase of the MCU will consist of. I could be oh so wrong, but either way, I am oh so excited for this upcoming finale. This was a fantastic penultimate episode, and I really hope this show breaks the trend of MCU shows not having the greatest of endings. And even though I could talk about this episode for quite a bit longer, make sure to check out our more in-depth discussions on Man and Movies live streams. I'll take a break for now so that all of you can let me know your thoughts and opinions on this one. Was it also your favorite episode so far? Or are you not as big of a fan of having more than one version of a character share the screen? Which Loki was your favorite? And what do you think that castle that Loki and Sylvie are heading off to is? Like the video if you enjoyed this content, subscribe and hit that notifications bell so you can stay up to date with future breakdowns, and I'll catch you at the next review.